My family mocked me at brunch. Everyone's coming except the disappointment of the family, aka you, before my mom attempted to steal $7,000. I cut them off, lawyered up, and for the first time ever, my life is finally calm. Hey Reddit, so I always thought my family was just a little dramatic. Turns out, they were basically running a full-time scam operation, and I was the last one to figure it out. It started with a simple brunch invite that I thought was harmless, but it ended with lawyers, restraining orders, and me finally realizing who my real family was. Buckle up, because this isn't the kind of family drama you laugh about at holidays. It's the kind you don't see coming until they're sitting in your living room acting like they own the place. So I'll start with this. If your mom calls you on a random Thursday night and says, "Hey, come over for brunch on Sunday, just family," don't go. It's never just brunch. It's a setup. At least with my family, it always is. I should have known the second I saw her name light up my phone. Elaine, my mom, doesn't call me unless something's wrong. She texts when she wants to guilt trip me, calls when she's staging some performance. But this time she sounded cheerful, overly cheerful, like she was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. "Come over on Sunday. We're doing brunch. Just family." I froze on the words, just family. They had a different weight now, especially after everything that went down the previous month. See, a few weeks before, Sierra, my girlfriend 28 female, and I, Nolan 30 male, took a short trip to Asheville. Nothing fancy, no Instagram influencer nonsense. Just a cabin rental, some hiking, coffee shops, breathing air that didn't smell like the school copier. I teach 4th grade, so escaping into the mountains for 3 days felt like winning the lottery. Sierra's a dental hygienist, also not rolling in money, so we split everything down the middle. It wasn't about luxury, it was about peace. But apparently, the act of going somewhere without my family attached at the hip made me the villain of the year. I posted a story on Instagram of Sierra and me in front of a waterfall. We were smiling like normal humans. Apparently, that was offensive material. Within 48 hours, my phone blew up. First was Marissa, my sister. She texted, "So selfish. Can't believe you'd run off like that." Then another text came from Caleb, my older brother. "You've changed, man." And of course, my mom, Elaine. "We've always been there for you, Nolan. But when you get a little time off, you run away like we don't exist." Victor, my dad, didn't even bother calling. He just sent a thumbs down emoji, which is about as much effort as he puts into anything unless it involves him. They acted like I'd abandoned them on the side of the road while driving off to Paris. Reality check. It was Asheville, 3 hours away. No Eiffel Tower, just overpriced biscuits and mountain views. Anyway, I ignored it. I thought, fine, let them be mad. Families blow up, families cool off. But then Elaine called me for brunch. And I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the olive branch. Dumb on my part, but you always kind of hope your parents will surprise you, right? So Sunday comes around. Sierra was busy, so I rolled in solo. I grabbed a bottle of red wine on the way. Not expensive, but not bottom shelf either. Thought it'd be a nice peace offering. When I got there, the house was buzzing, backyard full of noise. Dad was at the grill like it was his one true calling. Caleb was already 2 plates deep, stuffing his face. Marissa sat scrolling on her phone like she was allergic to real conversation. Marissa was in a local college, but she spent most weekends back home, acting like nothing had changed. Mom fluttered between them, smiling like she was the hostess of some cooking show. Nobody said hi when I walked in. No, "Hey Nolan, glad you came." Just silence. Like I was a background character who walked onto the wrong set. I sat down, tried small talk with Caleb's wife. She gave me polite one-word answers while glancing at Caleb like she needed approval before saying anything else. At one point, Mom asked how Sierra was doing. I said, "She's fine." That was it. No follow-up, not even a fake smile, just dead air. I should have kept my mouth shut after that, but I tried to lighten the mood. I said something like, "Man, I can't wait for the summer vacation. Need a real trip this year." That's when it happened. Dad let out this loud, fake laugh. Not genuine, more like the kind of laugh a villain makes in a cartoon before pushing a button. Then he said, "Everyone's coming except the disappointment of the family, aka you." And the table exploded. Caleb actually clapped his hands like Dad just landed a perfect punchline. Marissa snorted, eyes still glued to her phone, and said, "Yeah, guess you didn't need us, so we don't need you either." Mom just smiled. That smile. The one that says, "This is all just a joke, but also it isn't, and we all know it." I didn't beg. I didn't fake laugh either. I just smirked and said, "Funny how the so-called disappointment is still the only one who made it in this family? Enjoy your trip. I'll enjoy mine without you. Then I set my fork down, stood up, and walked out, leaving the wine behind like a parting gift they didn't deserve. No goodbye, just a reminder that I didn't need them, and never would, and nobody stopped me. That should have been the end. But here's the thing. With my family, there's always another layer. It's never just about insulting me or making me feel like trash at the table. There's always an angle. 5 days later, I got the notification. I was sitting at my desk grading math quizzes when my phone buzzed with a fraud alert from my bank. My first thought was, great, someone skimmed my card at the gas station again. Nope, it was worse. The notification said someone had just tried to pull about $7,000 in cash out of an old checking account in my name that I'd never gotten around to closing. The only reason it didn't work was the $400 daily ATM limit I set in grad school to keep myself from being dumb. That dumb rule saved me from getting cleaned out, and the bank's security system pinged me the second she started. And the thing is, it wasn't some hacker across the world. It was Elaine, my mom. Years ago when I moved, I stupidly gave my mom a spare debit card for emergencies. Apparently, she hit an ATM and tried to drain it with back-to-back withdrawals. She didn't walk into a branch and ask a teller. She used the old card at an ATM like it was hers. I froze for maybe 30 seconds, then locked everything down. I called the bank, blocked the card, renamed the account in my app to Pay Without Me, and then closed it. Petty? Maybe? Satisfying? Absolutely. An hour later, my phone lit up like a slot machine. The family WhatsApp group was going crazy. Mom, this was a misunderstanding. Stop being dramatic. Dad, you're overreacting. We're family. Family shares. Caleb, quit playing the victim. You act like money is everything. I dropped the fraud alert screenshot into the family chat so they'd stop acting like I was making it up. Within 5 minutes, Marissa had saved it, slapped some emojis on it, and reposted it like it was a meme. I didn't write paragraphs back. I just sent one word. Okay. That was it. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. Just, okay. Then, I muted the chat. That tiny reply drove them insane. I know it did. They live for drama, for pulling you into circular fights until you're worn down enough to give in. I wasn't giving them that satisfaction. For the first time, I felt a weird calm. Like, fine. They made their move. I blocked it. End of story. I could finally cut them off for good. But here's what I didn't realize. Cutting them off wasn't enough for them. If they couldn't guilt me or drain me, they were going to escalate. And escalate they did. 3 nights later, Sierra and I came home with takeout. She was talking when she froze mid-sentence. I followed her gaze and saw it. The apartment door was slightly open. Not broken, not kicked in. Just popped open. Turns out my mom had been holding onto a key she swore she'd returned when I asked her about it. My stomach sank. I pushed the door open, and there they were. Dad and Mom standing in my living room like they owned the place. And sprawled across my couch with her shoes off? Marissa. That's when it hit me. The $7,000 wasn't the real move. That was the warm-up. The real angle was walking into my apartment uninvited and acting like it was completely normal. Sierra's grip on the takeout bag tightened. She didn't say a word at first, but I could feel the tension radiating off her. My parents didn't even acknowledge her. To them, she didn't exist. "What are you doing here?" I asked. My voice wasn't yelling, just steady. Angry, sure, but controlled. Elaine gave me this little smile, the kind she uses when she's about to say something ridiculous, but expects everyone to nod along. "You weren't answering us, so we came over. We need to talk." And that's how I knew things were about to hit another level. "I wasn't answering," I shot back, "because you tried to yank $7,000 out of my account." She waved a hand like I'd mentioned something silly. Like I said we were low on milk. "That was for the holidays. You're still part of this family, Nolan. Like it or not." Sierra finally found her voice. "You broke into his apartment. That's not okay." Elaine turned her head slowly, like an owl spotting prey. Cold, unblinking. "This is family business," she said flatly. "It doesn't concern you." I swear the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Sierra's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. I stepped closer, planting myself between them. "You don't get to dismiss her," I said. "She's with me. You're the ones trespassing." Victor finally spoke, his voice carrying that fake authority he always tries to use when he knows he's wrong. "You've been different since you started dating her. Selfish, like we're just a burden now." Marissa laughed softly without looking up. "He's always been a flake. Asheville just confirmed it." And there it was. The vacation. The stupid Asheville trip they'd been harping on for weeks. Like 3 days in the mountains was some kind of betrayal of family loyalty. I took a deep breath. "You don't pay my rent? You don't cover my bills. You don't grade 70 spelling tests in one night. But somehow you think I owe you a vacation? Victor leaned forward. You do. After abandoning us? Yes, you do. I laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not fake, just disbelief. You seriously broke into my place to demand I take you on vacation? Elaine's voice sharpened. We've sacrificed for you. We've always been there. You don't just walk away because you found a girlfriend and a cabin in Asheville. I wanted to clap, slow and sarcastic, but I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of a reaction bigger than words. Instead, I looked at Marissa sprawled on my couch. Hey, do me a favor and get your feet off my furniture before I send you an invoice. She rolled her eyes. Wow. Listen to big man. Sierra muttered under her breath. Unbelievable. And I could feel her shaking with frustration behind me. That's when I snapped. I wasn't yelling, but my tone cut sharper than anything else. You need to go, now. Elaine tried guilt, her favorite trick. Don't talk to your mother like that. Victor tried sarcasm. Oh, the teacher's laying down the rules. Cute. Marissa snickered. Bet Sierra just loves all this drama. I didn't care. I grabbed the door, swung it open, and gestured outside. Out. They didn't move right away. They stood there testing me, waiting for me to backpedal like I always had before. But I didn't. I just stared at them until finally, one by one, they shuffled toward the door. Victor muttered something about me being ungrateful. Marissa smirked as she slipped her shoes back on. Elaine was the last to leave. She paused at the doorway, turned, and gave me a look I'll never forget. Half pity, half contempt. You're going to regret this, she said. I didn't answer. I just shut the door behind her and locked it. Then I stood there in the silence, my heart pounding in my chest. Before I went to bed, I snapped photos of the door, the messages, everything, and the next morning, I handed it all to my lawyer so she could file the trespass report properly. Sierra put the food down on the counter and sat at the table, her hands gripping the edge like she needed to hold on to something real. This is not normal, Nolan, I nodded. I know. We ate dinner in near silence. My brain wouldn't stop spinning. Victor calling me selfish. Elaine brushing off the $7,000 like it was pocket change. Marissa lounging like she owned my couch. None of it felt like a family fight. It felt like a hostile takeover. That's when it hit me. I couldn't let this slide anymore. If I kept pretending it was just family drama, they'd keep pushing, keep escalating, until there was nothing left for me to protect. And for the first time in my life, I decided I wasn't going to play their game. After the trespass, sleep was pointless. I kept replaying the scene in my head, Elaine smug in my living room, Victor lecturing me like I was 12, Marissa lounging like she owned the place, and that last line, you're going to regret this. I knew they weren't done. They never are. With my family, regret means we haven't gotten what we wanted yet, but we will. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, thinking about how every time I'd tried to set a boundary, they bulldozed right over it. If I wanted out for real, I needed backup, someone who knew how they worked, and one name came to mind. Russ. Russ is my dad's older brother, the family's black sheep. At least that's what Elaine always called him. She said he was unstable, irresponsible, a troublemaker. My dad parroted the same lines. Russ doesn't respect family. But you know what I realized? In my family, being called a black sheep is probably the biggest compliment you can get. I hadn't talked to Russ in years. He cut ties with them a long time ago, and I guess I'd been too wrapped up in school, work, and just surviving their nonsense to reach out. But after that break-in, I scrolled through my contacts until I found his number. He picked up on the second ring. I just blurted out a hello, and he instantly replied, chuckling, well, if it isn't Nolan, took you long enough. That threw me. You were expecting me? He snorted. Kid, I've been expecting this call for 5 years. What did they do? Steal your Netflix password and run up a debt? Close, I said. They tried to pull $7,000 out of my account, then broke into my apartment. There was a pause. Then Russ burst out laughing. Not the fake Victor laugh, but a genuine belly laugh. 7 grand? That's ambitious. Even for Elaine. Guess inflation hit her scams too. For the first time all week, I smiled. Russ invited me over that night. He lived across town in this beat-up but cozy house he inherited from my grandparents. It looked like the kind of place nobody would suspect a guy with dirt on half the family to live in. When I got there, Russ didn't waste time. He handed me a thick manila folder. Welcome to the archives, he said. Proof your mom's been running her manipulation Olympics for decades. I opened the folder and froze. Inside were photocopies of old emails, text screenshots, even bank transfers. Stuff going back years. Elaine had borrowed 10 grand from Russ in 2012, supposedly for a roof repair. He later found out she used it for a cruise to the Bahamas. She'd guilted him into co-signing a loan for Victor's truck, then told the family Russ pressured them into it. When Russ confronted them, Elaine spun the story so well that everyone thought he was the liar. "She's got a gift," Russ said, pouring himself a soda. "Not one you'd want, but a gift. She can take her mess, wrap it in shiny paper, and hand it to you like it's your responsibility." I sifted through the papers, my stomach sinking. Every guilt trip I'd ever gotten suddenly had context. I wasn't the first target. I was just the latest. Russ leaned back in his chair. "You know why I stopped showing up to Christmas? Because one year I gave your folks $500 to help with gifts for the kids. Next week I see Victor on Facebook posting pictures at a casino in Atlantic City. When I called it out, your mom told everyone I was drunk, on something and imagining things. Haven't been back since." He continued, "Why didn't I wave the receipts around? Because they don't care about facts. They care about the story that makes Elaine look holy. I wasn't going to waste breath convincing people who clap when she lies." He grinned, but it wasn't bitter. It was the grin of someone who'd already walked through the fire and come out the other side. They don't change, Nolan. You can't reason with people who treat boundaries like personal insults. Only way out is to outsmart them. For the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't crazy, like I wasn't overreacting. Russ confirmed what I always suspected, that my parents' selfless, loving act was just a cover for manipulation. "So what do?" I asked. Russ cracked his knuckles. "Simple. You cut them off and you make it stick. No yelling, no begging, no explaining. Just clean cuts they can't wiggle out of." I must have looked doubtful because he smirked. "Kid, trust me. I've been at this longer than you've been alive. They'll try guilt. They'll try threats. They'll even try to turn the whole extended family against you. But if you stay 2 steps ahead, they can't touch you." Something about the way he said it, calm, confident, made me believe him. We sat at his kitchen table for hours, coming up with a plan. Not some Hollywood revenge plot with dramatic confrontations. This was quieter, sharper, more surgical. Step 1. Sever every remaining financial tie. Old accounts, shared logins, even insurance emergency contacts. Russ had a buddy in financial compliance who could walk me through all the boring paperwork. Step 2. Document everything. Every guilt trip text, every bank screenshot, every voicemail where they called me ungrateful. Russ insisted I build a receipts folder so thick nobody could deny what they'd done. Step 3. Let them expose themselves. Don't fight every battle. Just keep records, and when the time is right, drop the truth where it'll hurt most. The family that still believed Elaine's version of reality. I'll be honest, a part of me wanted the dramatic explosion. I wanted to scream in their faces, demand apologies they'd never give. But Russ made me see that the real revenge wasn't noise. It was silence. It was making their manipulation useless, their tricks powerless. As I left that night, Russ clapped me on the back. "Welcome to the dark side, kid. We don't yell, we don't cry, we just win." Walking to my car, folder tucked under my arm, I felt something I hadn't in weeks: control. For once, I wasn't the one reacting to them. I had a plan. I had an ally. And this time, I wasn't playing defense. I shut down the old joint accounts, reset every password, yanked their names off insurance policies, and cleaned up every digital corner they might sneak through. Even the emergency contact at work got switched. For the first time in years, I wasn't leaving doors cracked open for them to walk through. Then came phase 2, exposure. Russ dug out a stack of old photos he'd kept. Some were digital copies with the metadata still intact. Others were old prints with the date stamped in the corner. Elaine and Victor smiling at casinos, clinking glasses on beaches, lounging in front of a resort pool. Those dates lined up perfectly with the exact weeks they were crying broke and begging me for help. "You recognize that shirt?" Russ asked, pointing to one. I did. Victor was wearing the same faded polo he had on when he begged me to cover their overdue car insurance. I'd shelled out $300 that week, only to see proof they were sunbathing in Aruba. I snapped a picture of the photo and tossed it on Facebook with the caption, "Funny how the people who call you selfish are usually just mad you stopped funding their lifestyle." Didn't tag anyone. Didn't have to. Within an hour, cousins were DMing me. "Is this for real? Wait, I thought your parents were barely scraping by?" Extended family that had always swallowed Elaine's sob stories suddenly had receipts shoved in their faces. Of course, Caleb and Marissa circled the wagons. Caleb messaged me, "This is disgusting. You're humiliating Mom." Marissa posted a vague Instagram story. Some people can't handle the truth, so they burned down the whole family tree. In classic Marissa, Loves throwing shade but can't survive outside a Wi-Fi signal. I didn't reply. Russ's advice stuck. Silence is louder than comebacks. But the silence didn't last. 3 days later, Elaine showed up on my porch. And she didn't come alone. With her was Darren, my dad's younger brother, the fixer. Darren is the kind of guy who thinks crossing his arms counts as a personality. He strutted up my steps in sunglasses, even though the sun was nearly down, like he was auditioning for a cheap mob movie. Sierra was inside, watching from the kitchen window. I stepped out and shut the door behind me. Elaine started, all soft-voiced. "We need to talk." "No, you need to leave," I said. Darren jumped in immediately, puffed up. "You embarrassed the family. That post you made? Out of line." I almost laughed. Out of line was trying to drain my account for $7,000. Don't pretend you don't know. "She made a mistake," Darren snapped back. I shook my head. "No, she made a choice. Don't sugarcoat theft." Elaine lifted her hands, pretending to mediate. "I didn't come to fight. I came to make peace. We canceled the original trip. We're planning something smaller. We want you back. We can start over." And there it was. The reset button. Their favorite trick. Sweep it under the rug, pretend it was all a misunderstanding, then pull the same games again next week. I smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "I'm not going anywhere with you. And if you show up here uninvited again, I'll file a report." Darren scoffed. "You'd seriously threaten your own mother?" "No," I said steady. "I'm protecting my life. That's what I'm doing." Elaine's face shifted then. The calm mask cracked just enough to show the disbelief underneath. She wasn't used to me holding the line. Not used to me having proof. Not used to me being untouchable. "You've changed," she said, her tone dripping with pity like it was supposed to sting. "Good," I answered. They didn't slam the door or shout. They just turned, walked down the steps, and disappeared into the evening. No dramatic exits, just regrouping in silence. And that silence told me everything. They weren't done. Russ called later that night. "So, they tried the peace treaty angle, huh?" "Yeah," I said. He chuckled. "Classic Elaine. When she can't guilt you, she tries to reset the game. Proud of you, kid. You didn't bite. And for the first time in a long time, I actually was proud. They wanted me back under their thumb, but I wasn't playing anymore. Still, I knew one thing for sure. If they couldn't manipulate me back in, they were going to escalate. Again, I didn't have to wait long to see how. The email landed on a Wednesday, right before lunch. Subject line, "Notice of concern. Immediate acknowledgement required." It came from the Office of Professional Standards, District 14. At first, I thought it was spam. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint against me. It accused me of being emotionally unstable, said I was possibly depressed, and suggested that personal issues were creating a hostile classroom environment. The language was vague but poisonous. Phrases like erratic behavior and concerning classroom tone. It even dragged Sierra into it without naming her directly, referring to relationship conflicts that might have been observed by minors. I just sat there frozen with the email glowing on my screen. I teach fourth graders. I'd never so much as raised my voice in class, and here was a document hinting I wasn't fit to do my job. I knew who it was. It had their fingerprints all over it. They couldn't touch my money anymore. Couldn't guilt me into brunches or vacations. So now they were aiming at the one thing they knew mattered, my career. That afternoon, I was called into the principal's office. Ms. Cover wasn't angry. She looked awkward, like she was being forced to read off a script. "Nolan," she said carefully, "this is just procedure. I'm not passing judgment, but the district takes every report seriously. For now, you'll be under informal observation, and HR may ask to meet with you." I nodded, said I understood, and walked out without a word. But inside, something cracked. They weren't just humiliating me anymore. They were planting landmines in my life, hoping one would blow. When I got home, Sierra was waiting at the door. I handed her the printed email without speaking. She read it once, her face going tight. Then she looked up and asked, "Who would do this?" I didn't even hesitate. Them. Later that night, I called Russ. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sighed. Knew they'd try something like this. They can't stand losing control. If they can't get you back with guilt, they'll try to destroy you. "So what do?" I asked. "You end it," he said simply. "No more letting them throw stones from the shadows. You've got proof. We drop it where it hurts." So that's what we did. For the next 3 days, Russ and I went into full detective mode. We built a folder thick enough to stun an ox. Screenshots of texts from Elaine asking for help with groceries right before she posted selfies from Cancun. Venmo requests from Marissa labeled textbooks, which were really for festival tickets. Emails from Victor begging for overdue car insurance, timestamped the same week he bought a new TV. For years, I'd let those things slide. Told myself it was easier to send them a couple $100 than deal with the tantrums. But seeing it stacked up in one folder, the pattern was undeniable. It wasn't family. It was a scam ring with nicer clothes. Russ flipped through the pile and shook his head. See, kid? You weren't paranoid. You were targeted. They've been rehearsing this routine for decades. When we had enough, we didn't send it to Elaine. We didn't threaten anyone directly. We dropped it in the extended family WhatsApp group, the one with all the cousins, aunts, uncles, even the quiet relatives who only popped in at Christmas. I kept my intro short. Before you believe their version of me, here's the version they never mention. Then I unloaded it. Screenshots, receipts, timelines, the banking app showing the $7,000 withdrawal attempt. And finally, the cherry on top. The complaint email with the district's header right there in black and white. The chat blew up instantly. One cousin asked, "Is this some prank?" Another just wrote, "This is too much." An aunt I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me privately. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry, Nolan." Caleb jumped in right away, calling me pathetic and saying I was embarrassing the whole family. Marissa added her usual flair, posting some dramatic story about fake loyalty, like she was auditioning for a reality show. I ignored them. Russ's words stuck in my head. Silence hurts more than comebacks. But Elaine wasn't done. She never is. She didn't reply in the group chat. Instead, she went around it and straight to Sierra. Sierra showed me the message without speaking. It said, "You poisoned him. He wasn't like this before you. I hope you're happy." That was Elaine's final play. If she couldn't guilt me, she'd try to divide us. Make me doubt Sierra. Pretend I was her puppet, not a grown man finally drawing lines. Sierra read it once, then locked her phone. "End it," she said. "All of it. Whatever you have to do." And that's when I knew it was truly over. There wouldn't be another round. No more hoping they'd stop on their own. They weren't going to stop until I forced them to. For the first time, I wasn't scared or angry. I was just finished. Done waiting for the next sneak attack. Done playing defense. Done letting them roll dice with my sanity every time they wanted something. If they wanted war, they were going to get it. But not the messy kind they thrived on. Mine would be clean, quiet, legal, and permanent. The next morning, I called Russ. "I'm ready," I told him. He didn't ask what I meant. He just said, "About damn time. I've got someone for you." That someone was Leona, a lawyer Russ trusted. Not the type plastered on billboards grinning about car accidents, but sharp, calm, and efficient. When I handed her the stack of screenshots, messages, and complaint emails, she didn't flinch. She flipped through each page slowly, like she was piecing together a puzzle she'd solved 100 times before. When I finished talking, she tapped her pen once and said, "This is more than enough." Within a week, Leona filed for a no-contact order right away. An ex parte temporary order came through in just a few days, and the hearing for a permanent one was already scheduled for the following month. With the evidence I'd handed over, she said it was basically a lock. She also filed a trespassing report for the unauthorized entry. That wasn't just a family argument, she told me. It was a crime. And she was right. My landlord backed me up completely. He issued a formal incident report, replaced the locks, and even greenlit me to put in a doorbell cam at my door. He covered the cost. He said in 10 years of renting, he'd never had tenants dealing with something like this. That made me feel both validated and a little disturbed, like my family had managed to surprise even seasoned landlords. Then came the part I'd been waiting for, the anonymous complaint at school. Leona got the district's IT office to release the email headers, and they traced the source IP straight to Marissa's dorm Wi-Fi. She hadn't even bothered to cover her tracks. If IT hadn't cooperated, Leona was ready to subpoena, but she didn't even need to. I didn't need to press charges. Just the fact that Leona showed the district the data trail was enough. The complaint was thrown out immediately. File closed, record spotless. HR even sent me a polite note thanking me for my professionalism during the process, which was their corporate way of saying, "We know your family's unhinged, but thanks for not losing it while we sorted this out." That was it. Their last big play was gone. No money, no access, no power over my career. Checkmate Sierra and I decided it was time for a clean slate. We started looking for a new apartment, something unconnected to all the chaos. Within a couple weeks, we found a 2-bedroom near a park. It wasn't flashy, but it was perfect. Sierra loved the kitchen layout. I loved the little reading nook by the window. It was quiet, bright, and had no ghosts attached to it. Russ helped us pack. He made the whole thing feel like less of a chore and more of an inside joke. While sealing a box of books, he said, "You know, if Elaine shows up here again, charge her market rent and tack on late fees every time she starts a guilt trip." Sierra cracked up so hard she nearly dropped a stack of plates. For the first time in months, I saw her laugh without that shadow of worry behind it. When we handed over the keys to the old place, Russ put a hand on my shoulder and said, "That apartment was your first step away from them. This new one? That's your first step forward." I didn't say anything back, but he was right. After moving in, I opened WhatsApp one last time. The extended family chat was still buzzing with nonsense. Caleb posting vague messages about loyalty. Marissa posting cryptic stories, pretending she was the victim. A few cousins tried to play peacemaker. I didn't respond. I didn't announce I was leaving. I just left the group and then deleted the chat. Gone. A couple relatives messaged me privately, saying they hoped we could still stay close. I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, just because I was done being the one who cleaned up other people's messes. Work started to feel normal again. My students even threw me a little welcome back gesture. Handmade cards, construction paper signs, and one drawing of a stick figure labeled "Mr. N is the best." Sierra framed it and hung it in the hallway of the new apartment. Seeing it every day reminded me that no matter how loud my family tried to scream, the people who actually mattered saw me for who I was. Nights became quiet again. I slept without bracing for the next call, the next email, the next invasion. Sierra and I would sit on the balcony with takeout, talking about nothing in particular, finally able to breathe. One night, with a pizza box between us, she looked at me and said, "You know, you're going to be a good dad someday." I blinked at her. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged, smiling. "Because you know what not to be." That hit harder than anything my family ever said to me. Not in a painful way, just the realization that all of this, as twisted as it was, had cleared the ground for something better. I wasn't the scapegoat anymore. I wasn't the selfish son or the ungrateful brother. I wasn't the family's ATM, their safety net, or their punching bag. I was just Nolan. And for once, that was more than enough.